Well, it's complicated. Like that is the kind of the question, the ultimate question for me. And like, I mean, they're definitely like, I'm definitely looking for a solution like this in order to not have the game, come out, a year from now, and I don't know where that money will come from and what we'll have to do to get it. Anything else happened with Broken Age last week during GDC?
Nice work hosting, by the way.
Yeah. Thank you. But what is beauty in a game? Is it the most realistic depiction of a human? Is it some sort of expressive, stylized perspective on reality? Is it polygon count? The answer is polygon count. Okay, awesome. Well, great. Now that is settled, let's check out these nominees for the award for Best Visual Arts. I'm just glad that was over.
The advisory board, even people like Chris Hecker said you were really good. So.
Even Chris Hecker?
Yeah, even Chris.
He didn't say I was like two Cliffy B's taped together or anything like that?
No, I think
Chris Hecker joke.
It's good. That's good.
No, that's a really insider thing.
And then Greg doing amazing work with Broken Age and all the PR stuff around GDC. I think especially like seeing that trailer roll out, it kind of gave me chills. That was cool, Greg.
That was awesome. And on our forums, it was funny to see how many people were touched by the line about the 90,000 closest friends. Like a lot of people were like, I was crying when I saw that. And I was like, oh man, I'm glad we tossed that in there. I didn't think that.
Yeah, after the trailer was released, just watching the reaction of the crowd, it was pretty surreal. And I had the benefit of also, and I think the viewers had the benefit of watching the reaction of the team, which I think was also amazing. So it's right in line with, something big. I think it gave a lot of people chills, and I think we're onto something special here.
Yeah, we did a lot of stuff last month. That seems like it was like 5 months ago, though. But yeah, it was good. It's nice to be able to talk about it publicly, get the game out there a little bit more. People seem excited.
Thanks for coming, everybody. And any backers of our project here? Backers?
I heard nothing but positive things. I even tried to dig for bad things. I always do, even though I hate looking at certain message forums and message boards and comments in certain websites. But you do it just to see what people are saying and to know all aspects of what people are saying about the game. And the places that usually people are pretty harsh, they all seem pretty positive.
And we're finally on the cover of Game Informer. What? Batman. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Delivering on a Kickstarter promise. It's nice. Good. Here, Oliver. This one for you. Takes the cake. Head in the clouds. Here, Oliver. Here, would you like one of these? It's our article in Game Informer. See if you can find it. There's a special article I wrote about you in there. Can I drop these off? Your Game Informer Double Fine. Yeah, they came. I heard you just tearing through the script.
I was just...
He was just
one
being
take
super,
petty.
super, it was pretty
There
good.
were a few improvised lines about anal dildos, but... No, there weren't. I'm just kidding.
Thanks for pointing that out because of the cameras.
Oh, hey, Paul. Well, whenever Paul's around, I think of anal dildos.
He's kidding. Those anal dildo lines were written in the script.
That's right.
He's always taking credit for the best stuff. You've probably heard of the company's outrageously successful Kickstarter campaign. He's walking through the whole intro. Surprise party's waiting for her. It's called Surprise Party. I said, don't give too many spoilers out. And he's like, I get paid by the word. No, he didn't. No. They're like, we gotta fill this stuff with something. Double Fine still has work to do, but if Broken Age stays the course, we're all in for a treat.
Yeah, dude, like if I just saw this,
Oh,
and then
da-da-da, da-da-da. I'd buy that.
I'd be so stoked.
I'm gonna buy that game.
Guess what?
Oh, everything after that first announcement trailer and the Game Informer thing was all positive. I think we got a lot of just excitement out there. I stayed away from any mean forum comments or YouTube comments. I didn't see too many of those. But it was all great. It was all great, I think, for people to see it. Okay. Exciting. Now back to work. And we're done with all that marketing stuff. For now, we're back to full-time working on game content, which is exciting.
Are you excited to play the game?
I've seen sneak peeks around the office that made me super excited about some beautiful stuff that I saw. Some fancy polished things. I cannot wait to play it.
I mean, we're getting more and more color every day. It's so fun to go from like that black and white one and then just like start, doing a few things in Photoshop and then you do an export and it's like, and just like, it starts feeling like a real vibe to the scene.
Initializing Fork and Wolf Drive intake.
Look at that awesome ladder work.
Position.
Let's do that again.
Weave thrusters at viscosity. Spindle at rotational velocity.
What? It just seemed like a whole different game. Like everything was super polished, all the doors are open, close, you go in through them, and the sound effects happen, and the effects were all in, and it was amazing. Like it really was very heartening. Like I started to get excited about the final product of the game. Like I always get excited about the progress, but seeing that, I was like, oh man, when people actually see this and get this as a final adventure game that they bought and paid money for and are playing, they're gonna love this, which is great. Because up until then, you're just happy, like, oh, his head doesn't pop off anymore. Oh man, pixels are on the screen. This is amazing. But there, it's actually started to look like a kind of fancy game. It's looking all fancy.
But yeah, the spaceship's coming along quite a bit. Pretty impressed with it every time. It's gotten really far, really fast, so it's been really fun.
This is a bit temporary still, but if we go into this room, it actually looks pretty cool. So again, like you have really sweet like reflection on the ground, and if you look at the door, obviously once it opens, actually that like reflects properly too, and you have like areas that are kind of more dirty now, so they kind of block the reflection a bit more, and there's like stuff that's completely opaque, like a carpet that kind of also blocks the reflection. So that works pretty well. So I'm quite happy with how that turned out, and it's pretty cheap overall. So these days in games on a console, usually what you would do, you would basically render the entire image into a texture, and then you can just like basically use the texture to calculate those kind of reflection effects. On mobile devices, doing that is really, really expensive, so we said we can't do it like that. So we had to basically investigate different approaches of doing that. And what we're doing now here is actually it's using a super old trick that very often we use like doing PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 times, where we basically take the geometry and we flip it and we render the geometry again. And then it gives the impression like something is being reflected. So yeah, it's all just smoke and mirrors. Smoke and mirrors.
So it lets us sort of get a variety of surfaces, or you can sort of see like some of the light coming down here. I just painted that in. Looked like the light was stretching out there. It's all fake. You can see our lighting system in action here too, actually, is that he kind of gets into this dark area and he gets darker, but I've been going through and doing lighting on all these scenes as I've been painting him, so he gets this sort of subtle orange rim light coming in off this here. You can sort of see it. I can zoom in here a little bit, and you can kind of see this subtle orange stuff here on his shoulders, and that goes away as he walks away from that source. So you can see here it's entirely gone. And just as a demonstration of how powerful this lighting is, this is what he looks like in the scene with no lighting. So even the smallest amount of color grading helps him sit in the scene. And since we have such a diverse set of environments people can go in, that was really important. I think lighting is one of those, it's always one of the best tools in any game to sculpt the gameplay and influence the player in a non-heavy-handed way. So it's actually a really powerful tool that I think a lot of people don't spend enough time with. And lighting has always been one of my focuses, just because as an art director, it's one of the easiest things to go in later and both to address gameplay issues, but also just mood issues, you know, to kind of push and pull it to get it closer to where the story's going.
And then Lydia did all this sweet like teleporter effects, which just like look pretty sweet. Like every week I look at a game like the teleport effect again. It's like awesome. Just whoa, man, this is just absolutely amazing.
A lot of times for ambient effects, people like usually I'm the only person thinking about it. How I can make the scene less static. So I think it usually surprises people, which is fun. Yeah, so this one was cool because I asked the artists to, like they often paint in lighting, but I asked them to keep it at a separate layer in Photoshop so I could like break it out and animate it with effects, because before these were just like static and part of the scene layer, yeah.
This is 3D?
Yeah, so it's like, it's like, it's kind of fake-o. Why is it not?
Usually this is all red back here. So basically like the whole UI is like these panels. So there's like the settings. Yeah, you can like make levels, and we did all these icons and stuff. It was like a lot of design stuff.
Yeah.
It took forever.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Dude, that is a hefty UI job.
Yeah, it was huge.
And Corey is kind of like a friend of a friend. I have a lot of kind of mutual friends with him and had seen his stuff and always liked his stuff, and that it's really simple and kind of retro but new, and just really slick and clean. And so it seemed like it would be a good fit. And yeah, he'll be on the project for a month or two and kicking off recently. We just had our first meeting with him, and he'll be checking in some UI stuff.
Yeah, I kind of like the handcraftedness of the game.
Yeah.
That's something that I would want to have present in the UI if it's possible. It'd be cool.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the biggest way to connect it with the other visuals without like just, you know, oh, it's painted too, you know.
If it comes to the point where you have like a really strong vision of what you want your stuff to look like and it doesn't fit as much with the stuff that exists.
Nothing is untouchable. Remember that. Lee's going to bring that up again, but it's going to mean something different.
That's more of a Greg comment.
That's more of a
I don't
after hours
know.
kind of.
I think it's a Lee comment.
Yeah.
You mean Lee towards Greg?
It's Lee. It's solicited to back rubs. Yeah, double fine nights.
I mean, you're
oh my God.
at my eye level.
With a K. That's gonna be like our TV show.
I mean, I think we've made good progress. I don't think anybody would be unhappy with the look that we have. I, of course, always want to take it further. I still think we're not pushing parallax and multiplaning enough, you know, but I think that we have everything we need for that. It's really just a matter of getting the game further and finding the right place to do those. And then there's a lot, I think once we get real voice acting and you see final animation with some of the great effects work Lydia's been doing, you see all those things together, hopefully that all goes to where it needs to be.
Okay. Are we gonna get fog on his helmet? Is that a thing? Or that?
Get what?
When he's breathing, like, did we talk about that last time? I thought we talked about that, like getting steam on his inside of his helmet, but not of his. I mean, that would be cool. And there's something missing. The iris is missing on his feet. Is that? Yeah.
Yeah.
They're getting after this. They're gonna start working on the intro to the girl's world. The girl's called Vela, by the way. Yeah, short for Valuria. They have names. Yeah, Vela and Shay. The girl's name Vela, short for Valuria. Her sister's name Rocky, which is short for Raquel. I wrote all the dialogue for the intro to her world and named all her parents and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun. It's funny because it's like you work on the cloud colony for so long and you're like, clouds everywhere, and it's fun at first, and then you're just like, I'm sick of clouds. And then like you're like, yay, and like it's like we're in space and like we're in like enclosed like hard surfaced everything. This is super fun. And then you're like, oh man, we've been in space for a long time. And then like, yeah, you kind of like do look forward to, because you live in these little like, I mean, I'm sitting at a computer screen, but you're really like in these little enclosed areas, you know, while you're working on them, and you spend a lot of time with them. So just the idea of getting outside again is like kind of fun, you know.
So here's the Vela intro dialogue. lately, because I previously did not know how to use the new dialogue database, and I've never had time to learn. I've just been like, okay, Melina, put all this dialogue in. So I wrote the Bella intro dialogue. Like these are all just cutscenes or chatter. So this is just like her mom talking. I put stage direction in that column. I put dialogue here and the name of the character, and then this column on the left only has stuff in interactive dialogue. So here, this is the dialogue with the grandpa. I tag each dialogue choice like with 1-10 for being in node 1, line 10, and then I say whether that line is on or off when you start the dialogue, and then at the end of it, it's automatically assumed that line's going to go away unless I say always on. And then there's all this logic for turning on and off other dialogue choices. So the dialogue choices, this is almost like a little macro, like a little mock-up programming language in a way, because the programmers can take this and turn it into logic to make the dialogue choices work. And I also, when I'm writing, I have to play music that usually doesn't have lyrics, unless it's really old heavy metal or Led Zeppelin that I've played a million times. But I can always go into my Black Sabbath folder. Okay. It's good. So I wrote some lines, including the line, really, Splarg, is it my birthday or something? That's gonna be probably the best line in the game. Can't tell now, but 10 years from now, you'll know.
Okay.
So much for that design.
Part of this was that I wanted to talk about all the potential meetings that we were supposed to be able to have.
A meeting about meetings that we could have.
I have a list here of like, these are all the meetings that Tim is supposed to have early this week. Let's figure out if we can do that.
How about none of them?
And that's kind of what I was going to say, is that
I don't want to have any meetings.
I know, I don't either. We have so
I'm
many
supposed
meetings.
to be writing every morning, dialogue, and then designing with John in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Look, it's John Swisshelm. John, what are you doing here at Dailies? John is here for a week.
I'm gonna help Tim out this week, and maybe longer after this. I'm excited to just look at. I've been looking at all the docs, read all the docs, catching up. Maybe I can be a good set of fresh eyes on some of the stuff you guys have been head down on. This is interesting for me too because I was a backer before I joined Double Fine, so it's awesome to be working on this project.
Thank you for backing. Thank you for backing. Paul's gonna check that right now. Can you give me a verification on that?
Check it.
Don't bring up how much he paid though.
I got it. Let's just say I got a T-shirt and a poster.
Yo, very nice, very nice. Thank you for
I don't know where the poster is anymore.
Well, I always need someone to bounce ideas off of and talk to, you know. So, sometimes I take the whole team and brainstorm with them, or just take a few people on the team. But everyone's working so hard now that because someone just sitting in your office by yourself, even with a notebook, it's really hard to kind of get through thoughts and ideas. And when you're talking through someone, everyone contributes. And talking with John, we had a bunch of ideas. So it's just more productive to brainstorm with someone else. All right. Well, welcome to the project, Mr. Swisshelm. Just to prove how natural, and I don't notice the cameras at all, let's shake hands like this. Natural.
Nice wave we got going on here.
Yeah. Great to have you.
Good to be here.
You like my bar fight joke? That was gonna be my joke that your solution to every design question will be like, you should have a bar fight. That worked in Uncharted 2. Did I mention Uncharted? No, 3.
3. Beginning.
You were on
it
2.
Worked out. I was on 2.
What else have you designed besides the bar fight in Uncharted 3?
I did a lot of stuff just here and there.
At EA, what did you do?
At
Space?
EA. I was
No.
on Dante's Inferno.
Dante's Inferno.
And some other games that will never come out.
Was it your idea to have babies that you kill?
It was not my idea. Most of that was not anybody. Well, it was just one person's
Not owned
idea.
by
And
anybody.
we had to just deal with it and make it as cool as we could.
Just blame it on Dante.
Exactly.
Okay, so the girl's world. I've got a name for this world. The Seedlands or something is where all the. Okay. This is the world with a girl in it, and this is the world with a boy in it. And these are the locations. There's Sugar Bunting, her hometown. Mariloft, the Cloud Colony. Shell Mound there's some concept art in the back of a town made of sandcastles. This is the Dead Eye God's Pyramid. This is the forest from there.
Games are complicated, man. Like, they're so complicated. That's the one thing that just always just drives me crazy. even the most simple game, when you really break it down, has many different elements that need to work together. And so, you know, Tim thinking about things on a high level and then also thinking about actually writing dialogue, I think that's a lot of stuff to do, a lot of stuff to keep in your mind. So I think I think I was able to go in and help kind of be a external brain for him for a little while, just to think about some of the high level things that he hasn't had time to process in a while, so he could really focus on that dialogue that the team needs to use to, you know, get this section of the game up and running.
So those are the kind of open design questions that we're working through, is basically finish out the puzzle path for the girl.
Designers have a big responsibility because other people's work depends on them. What gets in the game and, you know, what they do, what if you make an assumption and then ends up not working and you have to throw away a bunch of stuff, now you've just cost somebody something that they've put their heart and soul into that might not be included in the game. And that's a reality, but it's also heartbreaking. So I think it's a big pressure for game designers to make sure that they're using their tools to the best ability to suss out some of those problems and work them out before it gets to the point where somebody is modeling or painting or animating.
Okay, let's do the bucket puzzle.
Okay.
How do you get the bucket from Hermit?
It'd be nice if that worked together with the boars somehow. Like maybe it's a feed
a slot
bucket.
bucket?
Yeah. And then
What?
you
Oh, he's milking the boars? you like the boar milking? He sells boar's milk. Later we'll have a puzzle that he uses boar's milk. So how do you steal this poor guy's bucket?
He could be using it in other ways.
Just catching a drip with
it. Yeah, could be his.
It's his latrine.
Toilet.
It's his latrine. You have to get him really constipated so he doesn't need to use his latrine anymore.
Luckily, boar's milk stops you up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when we're thinking about, I guess I have a certain way of thinking about puzzles and certain elements that I always want them to have, like a certain, I try to have the narrative of the story be something that would be actually fun to tell to someone else. Like, oh, I went here and I did this thing. Like, have the actual actions not sound really tedious. Like, and I put this mustache on a cat and, you know, but have them sound like really fun. Like I punched a sea monster in the mouth. Hey, holy crap, that was so productive. Paul didn't see because he was texting. It's fine. We totally did 3 puzzles today, essentially. It's awesome.
Sweet.
3 puzzles. Our rule in the old days is always 2 puzzles a day.
Okay.
So 3 puzzles would pretty much take the day
We'll
off
have to do
tomorrow.
1 tomorrow. Yeah, that's great.
No, he had he brainstormed with me, and we talked about the puzzles for the remaining part of the game. And he had some good ideas, and now I've got to wrap that up. But it's kind of undetermined right now because I need to know the scope that I'm designing to, and that's what Matt Hansen is coming up with now. He's coming up with what he calls the currency. It's like, okay, you've got 3 cutscenes here. You can spend them here, or you can spend them over here, and like. So I kind of need to know those constraints so I can wrap up the design.
Okay.
We're kind of breaking the game down by scene, so we're able to put a value, cost value to each one of those scenes, and it gives us a better estimation of how long it's going to take to actually build those things, and it's just going beyond what we had originally anticipated. And that was something that we just were able to get to that realization by getting more insight into the design.
I don't know that the scope of the game is really growing as much as our understanding is. It's a big game. I mean, it's not a small game, just in terms of the scope of environment, characters, puzzles. It's not always a correlation to like playthrough time. Like that's very variable, especially in adventure games. But just in terms of the scope of the game, it's a pretty big game.
I think one of our problems, though, or maybe one of my problems, is just the ambition of the games. Like I always have very ambitious games, and when we're doing like a $400,000 game, probably hadn't triggered that feeling yet in me. I was thinking small, but as soon as it got big, I was like, okay, we're doing a big game. Current schedule has us going out until other millenniums, which is going to be hard on us financially. So we are
Generational game.
Yeah, it's something that our kids will finish it, but just knowing that they will have a thing of beauty to worship in forever will be worthwhile.
The game is going to cost more than we originally anticipated. Is that something that we can recoup at some other time on the project or from other projects or whatever? it's something I'm luckily don't have to deal with.
There's actually very few avenues available to us. We could take on outside investment, but when you look at, as far as the schedule goes and how big the story is, like how we get material funds to finish this, you know, it just gets to a point where potentially it's insurmountable. So, but that's why, you know, we have clever people all working together, all thinking about this and figuring out how we can make this happen. So, you know, I could go and it'd be like, hey, we need another $1 million. Okay, I can get $1 million. Without strings attached, got $1 million.
Let's see how much Brutal Legends sold. It's at $916,593 dollars. The dollars. Oh, yeah, dollars. Yeah, that's awesome.
Got $1 million. Okay, we need another $1 million. Okay, I got another $1 million for you.
We are launching the Humble Double Fine Bundle today. And if it makes a ton of money, maybe I won't have to cut anything from the game. It's like the Kickstarter all over again.
It's just nice. Like, I watch money going out every day. I love these events when we actually have a chance to see some money coming in.
I really am not going to get my hopes up any higher than like $200,000. I think Justin is hoping for like $1 million.
Okay, I got another $1 million for you. Okay, we need $6 million.
We've had a too much game to make in too little time problem the whole time, and there's just been periods where we've been able to forget about it. Like, oh, we're really happy about the trailer. Let's just forget about the fact that we don't know how we're going to get the rest of the game done on time. But it's still there, and I think now this is the most direct head-on attack we've been making towards fixing the problem. You know, the scheduling stuff that Matt's doing is really quantifying it to the point where we can attack it instead of just talking about attacking it. Because I've been thinking about it, like when I'm designing, like how to simplify stuff, but it's obviously a much bigger, it's much more drastic actions. Why don't you mention your crazy idea?
Okay, crazy idea. So we have, so you're a writer, obviously. And when you sit down to write a story and you look at it, you think maybe you have like a book, and then you maybe realize you have a novel. And then looking back, when you look at
the book and a novel.
Well, I think there'd be more pages. So, and then you have maybe you even have a series. Like maybe that's the whole story to tell. And the thought is that we potentially have, scope-wise, enough content for a game to ship sooner rather than later. So we were talking about acts, and this stuff is actually broken up into acts, and then maybe the Act 1 provides a great cliffhanger for potentially another installment, which would be Act 2 and the conclusion. But that was the idea. I mean, the guy, you know, I guess some reaction might be, oh, but you leave the story in a place where there's a lot of doubt. But it's you know, it's almost like The Empire Strikes Back, right? Where you end it and, you know, all the anticipation building up. It also gives us a chance for, you know, if the game is going to cost $6 million right now, if it costs $3 million, you know, that's basically, we've spent all the money that's come in for us by the backers. So we've delivered on the mandate that we spent all the money to make a game of a very high quality. And then the second game, you know, from the sales of the first game, we can then fund the second game, which I think is actually pretty elegant. So, and it gives us a chance to reuse art, reuse the engine that we've already developed. You know, it seems like a pretty good solution.
I like the idea of delivering something.
I mean, this opportunity did come up once during Grim Fandango because Grim was late, and people were like, it does, and then more than this, that story split into 4 years really easily. They're like, let's just do it in 4 episodes. But if we had done that, based on the perception of the sales of that game, there never would have been the rest of Grim Fandango. We never would have made it because the first one.
But it was Fox product too, right?
Yeah, but we would have made the first one, and they would have been like, well, that wasn't a huge hit, and so they would have just cut it.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm torn about it, because I'm kind of glad we didn't do it then, because it did get made. It didn't, and it, you know, made its numbers internally there, but
well, I mean, just we all know how big the amount of hype is for this game, more so than anything that we've worked on since I've been here, and it seems like it'd be unfortunate to squander that.
And weird,
squandering it though. Which part?
It just seems like since there's so much excitement and so much hype built up around it, that means that there's going to be a lot of excitement when it comes out, and so we should try to deliver the best project that we can to capitalize on it.
But see, that's the interesting part, what you're talking about, is because our main worry is that this gets cut short and we have to wrap it up quickly, right? And I think by not actually releasing something early and commercializing it, that actually becomes more of a risk than if we do.
It's definitely in Justin's mind, the split is happening. Definitely in Greg's mind, it's not happening. And I'm really in the middle. Like I'm willing to do it because I know it's something we might not have any option not to do, and willing to try and turn it into a positive thing. But I also know there's going to be some problems associated with it. And actually, if we could trim back the schedule enough and stretch the money enough to where they meet and we can actually do it, I'd probably save it and just release it all at once.
In some ways, it's letting us make it the length that it wants to be by releasing something that has a compelling stop point. It's just not a complete product, but it's a compelling stop point. And I think my feeling is that if we told the backers that, like, because they keep saying, how do we get them more money? You know, if you look at the forums, they're like, this is the hardcore guys. And this is saying, like, we're releasing it, pre-releasing it, it's the first act, you guys get it for, I don't know, a week or whatever. Then we're going to start some online sales. People buy the product, they're not backers, but they're going to get to actually purchase the product because we need that money to make the game that we want to make, that you deserve, which is true. You know, it's not smoke up their ass, but it gives us a funding model to be able to do that.
And it's like, this is like, in some ways, a sneak peek. This is just like you're getting this half of it early. It would be, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could make it, it's actually not the release, right? This is not the release. This is
a pre-release.
It's a pre-release.
I think it's a good solution potentially to a way to get more money for this project, but it isn't as good for the game necessarily. It's just a good way to fund the rest of the development.
You know, with Greg, this project is his baby. It's Tim's baby too, so I kind of defer to Tim on what he wants to do with it. But it is sometimes hard to step outside that and take the riskier course when it's something you've been working so passionately towards.
And that's kind of what we're trying to figure out now. And I think that it's also, I have a unique perspective being that I'm the studio's brand manager, and so I also have to be like responsible for everything outward facing that comes out of the studio and what people's perception is of what we're doing. I feel like we've been in a cycle for 4 years of jumping from contract to contract and game to game, and we need to take a bet on a game that has the best chance of anything that we've worked on of making us money and getting us out of that cycle to where we don't have to worry about money.
We could still do all that. We could still put that money into.
But I think it just cheapens the product. It just feels like I'm not getting a full game. I'm getting a game that wasn't the original vision.
But you are getting it. You're just getting a look at it sooner. You're getting a look at the first half sooner.
I mean, I think we're kind of stuck on the traditional route, and it's like this is forging new territory. I mean, I love it.
I don't think there's anything we've done that's traditional.
Exactly. So why start now?
Yeah.
I got the solution here right there. This is the solution to all our problems. Yes. Cashed out all the backer money, I'm leaving. Woo.
Yeah, why do you have that?
Tomorrow I'm gonna go pick up the Barracuda. It's finally done. And the mechanic is like, it needs to be cash. You just don't ask questions. When someone's like, it needs to be cash, just bring the cash. But it's also twice what we originally talked about it costing.
The thing with yours is that it was hard to know where to stop when you cut it open. Where do you draw your lines? Like, you know, the heater air conditioner should have really come out while I was under there. That should have been fixed, and then that means the air conditioning compressor should be fixed and plumbed and recompressed. And the steering column, I took it out, and I'd like to have changed the turn signal switch, but it was working, so I just put the column back in. You know, I cleaned it and everything, but I didn't take it apart. So there are places you got to draw your lines where you stop on a project like yours.
It's hard to know where to stop. Yeah, so it's like, I mean, I went and looked at all the work. It's not like he just did a lot of stuff that needed to be done. There's a new electrical harness on it, a new starter. But he also fix all these switches and stuff. And it's gonna be much better. So it's really gonna be a pleasure to drive. It just cost twice as much as I thought. Pretty much just like Broken Age.
I'm like little Hogarth. And Greg is my Iron Giant. I like to ride on his back.
Like it was a journey that I went through in a way, mentally, of like hating the idea to actually feeling this is the way to save the game. I'm gonna talk about the thing. There's a thing going on, which we've been talking about. Would you like to hear about the thing? Yeah. It's about an idea, about a scheduling idea for this game. Because we have, as you know, kind of a schedule problem, which is that I designed a game that's too big for the schedule that we have and the money that we got. The other idea that was put forth recently was, what about releasing part 1 of the game early? And at first I was like, oh, that sounds terrible, because like the first half of the game ends in such a cliffhanger and all this. But as an alternative to cutting the game content in half, I do like that idea a lot lot
I think it might like piss people off.
Depending on how we do it, it could definitely piss people off. But yeah, I mean, if you're giving them a choice of, hey guys, we could either cut the design in half, or we could just go out and try and find some money magically and then ship the game next year, or you could get the first half now. And I think people, I don't know what they would say. Like, I would think people would want to play what they could play. As long as it was done, finished, and good, and not rushed out the door, I think they would like to play what they could play.
I'm feeling more comfortable about it. So, I mean, it's just a matter of you want the perfect game, and we, you know, you're working so hard with a really distinct vision in mind, and so now we're at the point where it's like, okay, realities have set in. We gotta ship this game at some point. Ultimately, like, we're just doing what's best for the game. We want the game to succeed. We want it to be good. We want people to be excited about it, but we also want to be sensitive to the needs of the studio. And I think that there's a way that we can do all of those things. We ran into the same thing with Iron Brigade. I remember we had a meeting where like our Microsoft producer flew down. We sat in this room for 3 days, and it was like, we might cancel your game unless you can prove to us that you can finish it in, you know, however many months and make it good. And we had to like figure out how to change everything, all the structure, cut things, and make really smart decisions on how to actually get it done. And it was an awful meeting, and everybody hated each other. But we came out of it with a really solid plan, and we knew what we were gonna do. And I think this is just that stage where it's like a huge hump to get over, but at the end of this, we're gonna have like a clear plan for the rest of production. Everyone's gonna know what needs to happen, and we're gonna just, you know, plow through it.
Feels like the right thing to do. But at least we have an actual real schedule now that is not based on just our hopes and dreams, but actually has math that shows that we'll be done in a certain month. January for part 1 and April for part 2. Well, nothing really. I mean, I feel like we want to show what making games is really like, and this is what making games is really like. Like tough choices, trade-offs, compromises, arguments, you know, and then in the end, it all turns out to be something great. Hopefully.
Part 1 was something great.
Part 1 was something great.